Oh, airplane. Okay, cool. Airplane, please go away. I'm trying to talk about the Addicted series. Hi friends, it's me again. Long time no see. I do apologize for that. Things have been very hectic in my life. I finally graduated in May and then I moved back home, and I thought that would mean that I would have a lot more free time since, you know, I'm done with school. No, I started working full time, which has been a hot ass mess. It's made me not want to do anything but go to bed when I come home. I've barely had time to read, and I've just been like hanging out with friends and being social, which is also something I haven't really done in like 2 years, you know? So it has been a crazy few months. Started working full time, moved back home, hanging out with friends. I turned 24 last month. Like, it was a mess. So I still wanted to talk about what I read in April, May, and June, and hopefully you guys enjoy it and can keep up, because to be honest, I don't even remember half of these books. So this video is gonna be a mess, but we're gonna go with it. The first book I read in April was Always Been You by QB Tyler. Of course, this is forbidden, taboo, so always check up trigger warnings, and also just go in it knowing that it's forbidden and taboo. Like, don't be surprised when you go into it and you're like, oh, these step siblings are doing things. Always Been You follows the story of Gabby and James. Gabby was adopted by James's family when she was really young. Growing up, they always had like this different, special kind of relationship where it's like Gabby felt very attached to James and James was always super protective of Gabby. But obviously they never did anything until she goes to college, and they just decide that they cannot hide the attraction anymore. Yeah, so I did end up giving this 3 stars. I forgot the exact reason just because I did read this back in April. If you are looking for something spicy, taboo, forbidden, highly recommend. And also, QB Tyler just recently lost her husband, which is devastating. Please make sure to support her and her family, read a couple books by her, buy books from her, and just show her some love in this hard time. Also in April, I read 3 more books. They're all in the Addicted series, and I completed the Addicted series. So I read Fuel the Fire, Long Way Down, and Some Kind of Perfect. Saying that I'm done with the Addicted series still feels weird just because it's been the wildest ride for me, but I definitely sobbed when I finished Some Kind of Perfect just because I wasn't really expecting these characters to have the hold on me that they do. Saying goodbye really fucking sucked. Was not fun, was not cute. I ugly cried for days. It was great. I don't want to jump too much into the summaries for these books just because it is the 8th, 9th, and 10th book in the series. Fuel the Fire follows Rose and Connor. I gave that 4.5 stars. Long Way Down follows Reg and Daisy. Gave that 5 stars. Are we surprised? No. And then Some Kind of Perfect I gave infinity stars because it was Some Kind of Perfect. I just really came to appreciate the series. Is it my favorite series of all time? No. I would say it's in my top 3. I always get a lot of questions about like, oh, should I start the series? Should I not? And I always say that's up to you. This series took me a minute to really get invested in it and invested in the characters. I do have a lot of issues with this series just because of some things that were written and some plot things that happen. Like, I think that's mainly just an author issue for me. I always tell people to just read it and find their own vibe. I know it's 10 books, but honestly, I can't really form this opinion for you. So I highly recommend giving it a try and just seeing if you like it or not. So that was April's reading wrap up. In May, I read 6 books, I believe. I started first with Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Hello, is that a butterfly or a bug? Are butterflies bugs? No, I don't know. Things We Never Got Over follows Naomi and Knox. Naomi finds herself in the small town after she just ran away from her wedding. Like, she's a runaway bride, and her twin sister ends up calling her, basically asking for help, I believe. So she goes to the small town looking for her sister, just to find out that her sister left the town and also her child. So Naomi is now forced to take care of this niece that she didn't even know she had, and she runs into Knox, who is the grumpiest business owner in town. He is not for her being there. He's just very rude because he hates her sister and they look exactly alike. So it was definitely a story. Typical grumpy sunshine. I really adored Naomi. I thought she was hilarious and just one of the strongest female MCs I've read about. Knox was hot. I remember while I was reading this book, I was saying that it reminded me a lot of Underlock by Mariana Zapata. So if you've read Underlock and you liked it, I feel like you would really like Things We Never Got Over. There were just a lot of similar tropes. At the time, I did give this book 5 stars. Thinking about everything now, I think I would probably put that down to like a 4 or a 4.5. I decided to pick up Praise and Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate. I have also seen this book all over TikTok, all over Bookstagram, and I was really intrigued just because it is about like a sex club, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So in this book, you have Charlie and Emerson. Emerson is one of the owners for the Salacious Players Club. The Salacious Players Club is just a way to go and unravel all your deepest, darkest fantasies in a very safe kind of environment, which I did appreciate. Like, it sounded great. So Emerson owns this club, and Charlie is dating his son, or she was dating his son, I should say. Charlie ends up being Emerson's assistant, and there she finds out that she does have a praise kink. I mean, don't we all? His boyfriend's dad, which I think was my first boyfriend's dad book, so it was very interesting, very taboo. I was like, oh, okay, this is what all the hype is about. It was very quick paced. The smut was amazing. The relationship between Charlie and Emerson was adorable. I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was a great start to the series. So that led me to pick up the second book, Eyes on Me. I was very excited for this because you have Garrett and Mia. And Garrett is what's known as a voyeur, so he enjoys watching. And that intrigued me. Like, I was very, very excited to jump into his book. This one's also very taboo. Obviously, it's step siblings as well. So Mia is Garrett's stepsister, and she's also a cam girl. So one night, Garrett ends up finding her cam girl live. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But homegirl was doing her job, and Garrett stumbled upon it. And then that's when he realized that he started to kind of like his stepsister, because he was like, oh, haven't seen this before. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't really what I wanted for Garrett's character because he is a voyeur. So I would have loved to see that being explored in a different trope setup instead of like stepbrother, stepsister. I don't know. I think that one just really kind of took me out of the story. This one took me like a week to read just because I was like, I'm not really connecting to the characters. I had different expectations for what I wanted for this book. Next, I read Spades by my good friend Kira, who is on Book Talk. We actually met on TikTok and Bookstagram. Sweetest girl ever. She wrote a literal book. She sent me the arc and it was amazing. I'm pretty sure this comes out at the end of July, but basically it is about Nina and Giovanni. It's very mafia based, which I'm not surprised because Kira loves her mafia. Nina is basically forced to marry this person that she does not want to marry at all. Giovanni's been like this kind of family friend for a couple years and they've always kind of like hated each other, but he starts being very protective over her and he's got his dark secrets. Them bantering and just hating each other and then falling in love. It's always chef's kiss for me. I gave this one a 3.5. I thought it was really good for a debut novel. Very proud of Kira, and I cannot wait for the second book because now it's becoming a series. Definitely recommend trying it out, trying out a new author who is also a fellow book talker, bookstagrammer. Next, I read Tide by Carrie and Cole. I actually stumbled across this book when I was in like a TikTok rabbit hole at 2 a.m. I saw like this aesthetic video for this book and I was like, oh, that sounds really, really interesting. This is the second book in a series, and y'all know I am really one of those girlies who try to read the first book first. So I went and read the blurb for the first book so I could try to start off with that, but at the time the book just really didn't call out to me because I think it was dad's best friend, like it had that trope to it, and I was like, okay, I've been reading enough taboo this month, like I want something different. So I decided to read the second book first because the plot really intrigued me. But basically it is about Holly and Tyler. Holly got kidnapped when she was young and Tyler ends up finding her one day, and he's kind of like the town recluse. He's mute, so he doesn't really speak and everyone finds him weird. He's very quiet, he keeps to himself, he stays out in the woods, like he really just minds his business, you know? So because Holly was kidnapped so young, she is still trying to adjust to life. Tyler finds her when she's like 16, I believe. So there is a time jump where her parents send her away to some facility to like help her get reacclimated into society and all that. So I think the time jump is like 2 to 3 years, and Holly and Tyler end up running into each other because Holly has been trying to find the guy that saved her, basically. They were literally so wholesome, like actual twin flames. They've both been through so much. So like them trying to deal and cope with their own trauma while also trying to understand each other and be there for each other. It was just a really, really sweet read. I loved it a lot. I gave this one 4 stars. I felt like towards the end it started to be a little bit rushed in some areas. I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great random find on TikTok, and I definitely need to go back and read the first book now. And then the last book I read in May was Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. Farley is a comedian. Love that for her. And Meyer is her manager, who also used to be a comedian. Farley is basically just trying to make it in her career as a female comedian.
I literally forgot to mention that a major premise in this book is the fact that it has the fake dating trope. So Farley and Meyer have to fake date in order to like promote this comedy show that she's doing. So that's also a big plot that's in the book.
Meyer has a daughter who is deaf, so there's a lot of good ASL representation, which I really, really loved. There's also such good representation when it comes to like mental health and therapy from Meyer, which I thought was amazing, just because usually you don't get a lot of books where the MMC is really focused on mental health and like taking care of yourself. So I thought that was great. I gave this one 4 stars. It was dual POV. I would have liked for this to be in single POV just because both characters explained how they had feelings for each other for years at that point. point, but never really did anything about it. So I feel like that's kind of what took me out of the story as well, because I knew that they liked each other, but they spent the entire book acting like they didn't. The past and present chapters really didn't do that much for me either, so I think I could have gone without that. The comedy in this book was also just not my style of comedy, which sucks because I'm sure to other people it was hilarious, but to me it was just kind of cringy in some parts, but that's a me thing. It's literally a me problem. Besides that, it was 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, thought it was cute, had its funny moments, and I really enjoyed the emotional maturity of Meyer and Farley's relationship. Like, I thought that was done very, very well. So now we're on to June reads. It was an interesting month because I really didn't read that much. I started it off with Give Me More, which is the 3rd book in the Salacious Players Club series. I did receive an ARC, which was the best thing ever because this is a book I was looking forward to after finding out that it was MMF, so male, male, female. I love poly relationships in books. I think it's one of my favorite things ever. There's a child riding on his bike next to me and I'm talking about MMF relationships. So you are following Hunter, Isabel, and Drake. Hunter and Isabel are married. Hunter is also one of the owners of the Salacious Players Club. And then Drake is Hunter's best friend. They've known each other since they were really young. He's known Isabel since Hunter's known Isabel. Like, he was there the day they met. So they've known each other. They're all kind of like just this throuple of besties. And then one day Hunter realizes that he has a kink for wanting his wife to sleep with other people while he watches. Is that enough to sell you on the book? Because it was enough for me. So that's how Drake gets pulled into it. This book was hot. The spice was amazing. The poly relationship was one of my favorite things ever because while this book was smutty as hell, the emotional aspect to all 3 of these characters was amazing. Like, you can tell how much they cared about each other. Drake and Hunter's relationship was so adorable. Sarah Kate really put her foot in that book. I was really, really amazed by it. This is my favorite in the series by far. All I have to say is Isabel is one lucky girl. I gave this one 5 stars. Literally one of my favorite reads of the year, I believe, just because I thought the poly relationship in this book was done phenomenally. Because I got smut and just filth, and I also got heartfelt moments and the emotional aspect to all of these characters. Highly recommend. So because my birthday was in June, I did finally pick up Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, just because I feel like if you have not picked up Birthday Girl during your birth month, what are you doing? Like, are you even a reader? I've held off on this book for a long time just because I did want to read it during my birthday. I'm pretty sure you've heard a lot about Birthday Girl. If you haven't, it is boyfriend's dad. Jordan is dating Cole, who is Pike's son, but Cole is the shittiest boyfriend on the planet. So Jordan ends up meeting Pike at the movies on her birthday and they form this connection. And then Pike realizes that Jordan is dating his son. So he's like, oh fuck. Jordan and Cole end up moving into Pike's house. So a lot of that internal battle between both parties, but you can tell that they're really, really connected. And I thought that was sweet. I thought this was gonna be smuttier than it actually was, which was kind of surprising. To me, it was very slow burn. Like, I don't think a lot really happened in this book. I gave this one a 3.5. I liked it. It just wasn't like my favorite thing ever. This is one of the books where I'm like, okay, I can see why people enjoy it, but I don't know, it really didn't do that much for me. Like, I wouldn't feel like I need to read this every year on my birthday. So then I received an ARC for Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is the last book in the Twisted series, and y'all know that I kind of struggled with this series. Like, I didn't really like the first book, loved the second book, but the third one I didn't really like either, so I was praying that the 4th book was the one that was gonna really wow me, and it did. This one follows Christian and Stella. Stella is like this social media influencer, and Christian owns like security stuff. Like, he owns a security companies. I believe he was introduced in Twisted Game, so I was really excited to see this man because you can tell he is morally gray, dark-haired, brown eyes. Like, he just really checks off a lot of boxes for me.
I love that I forgot to even explain what the book was about, but it has a fake dating trope. So Stella is trying to reach 1 million followers on her social media platform, and it was suggested to her that she get a boyfriend. So Christian is the guy that she is posting on her account in order to like build followers, which I thought was interesting and a good spin-off of a fake dating kind of relationship, like through social media. I thought that was really good.
This book was everything I wanted and more out of this series. I thought it was a phenomenal way to end the series. I thought Anna Huang did a good job at writing a morally gray character within Christian. This man was he had some morals that were gray. So Stella is officially one of my favorite female characters ever. I bonded with her a lot on just like family trauma and like her own insecurities and just wanting to be a more confident person. So her character development in this was amazing. Definitely my favorite book in the series. If we're going in order, I'm gonna say Twisted Lies, Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, and then Twisted Love. Twisted Lies, I gave 5 stars. It was amazing. The next book I picked up was So Not Meant to Be by Megan Quinn. The first book was A Not So Meet Cute, and this is the second book that follows JP and Kelsey. JP is Huxley's brother, brother, and Kelsey is Lottie's sister. So if you read the first book, you know who these people are. The premise of this one is kind of weird and all over the place. Kelsey is on a look for love. Like, she's a hopeless romantic. She really just wants to find someone that loves and adores her, which same. And JP has been pining for Kelsey since he's met her basically, but Kelsey is not about it. Like, she thinks JP is this player and like she just doesn't want to date him, right? And JP just doesn't understand why. So I am not gonna lie to you guys, this book was awful. I really did not enjoy it, mainly because Kelsey is one of the most insufferable characters I have ever read about. She was judgmental. She made baseless assumptions about everything, especially JP. I don't know, the entire time JP is like telling her that he likes her and she's just like, oh, he's a player, he only wants to get in my pants, when literally all he's doing is being nice to her and being there for her, you know. Very, very weird. It annoyed me. It pissed me off to no end. It really got to a point where I'm like, JP, why do we like this girl? Like, why are you trying to be with her? I want you to do better, which says a lot because we don't root for men in this household. So Kelsey literally ruined the book for me. JP was okay. He just gave me the ick sometimes. Like, there were a lot of cringy moments in this book that just did not do it for me. It was horrible. And I rarely ever say, oh, this book is awful, I don't recommend. But in this case, this book was awful and I do not recommend. It gave me a brain aneurysm every time I would pick this book up and Kelsey would speak. I gave this 2.5 stars. I spent the entire month of June wanting to DNF this book, but also wanting to just get through it and hoping that it got better, but to me, it just didn't. Kelsey fucking sucked. So lastly, for June, I squeezed in the first 3 books in the Mindfuck series. This series has been talked about so much on Book Talk, Bookstagram, like I am really hella late. This series is fucking amazing. You have Lana, who is a serial killer, and you'll find out why. There's a method to her madness, and I agree, like I support her with her serial killing. Lana has her agenda and her list to kill off all of these people that have wronged her in her past, and she ends up meeting Logan, who is a detective for the FBI, and they end up liking each other. So you can only imagine the intrigue with the series, with a serial killer falling in love with an FBI agent who is essentially working on the case that she kind of started. So far, so good. Like, I definitely understand what everyone's talking about when they say when you pick up this book, you will fly through it, because I did. The books themselves are already like so small. I am still on the 5th book right now. Like, I have not finished the series just yet, and I'm gonna be sad when I do because I love it so much. I was not expecting to love it as much as I do because the books are so small. I was like, how am I gonna get connected to these characters that fast? No, the way it's written is literally phenomenal. We root for Lana Myers in this household. Like, she can do no wrong. It is very dark. I really, really encourage you guys to look up content warnings, trigger warnings, like all of that. Personally, there are only a few things that kind of trigger me, so I don't look up content warnings that much, but I really wish that I had going into this book, because there are certain things that happen that are really just hard to deal with. Like, it got to a point where I kind of had to like put the book down and regroup a little. So I really, really encourage you to look up the content warnings and the trigger warnings for this book and just go into it knowing that it's very dark and some parts are really hard to read. But overall, besides that, I really love it and I really, really recommend this series. Like, I understand the hype. So yeah, friends, that's what I read April, May, and June. Thank you guys so much for just being patient with me. I am still trying to adjust to this new schedule of life. So I'm trying to go to work and then find time for reading, find time to film. It's just really hard right now, but I'm working on a schedule. I'm working on adjusting, but I also appreciate you guys a lot. And with that being said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.